It could be the end of public media as we know it. Congress is considering pulling back critical funding that supports stations like Boise State Public Radio. If you care about independent journalism, visit boisestatepublicradio.org/funding and take action today.
From Boise State Public Radio, this is The Connector. It's Idaho's Daily News. Good morning. I'm George Prentice. We've got a good many stories to share with you on this day. Here we go. Idaho exports more than $4 billion worth of goods and services annually. 85% of exporters are small or medium businesses. That according to the Idaho District Export Council. And as Abigail Moody reports, those businesses are among the hardest hit by the Trump administration tariffs.
Tariffs affect both directions of international consumer trade. Kristen Kyle McQuestion with the Idaho District Export Council told Idaho Matters on Monday.
So what a tariff is it's essentially a tax that makes traded goods more expensive, affecting both exporters and consumers.
The council's Randy Bell shared an example of one Idaho-based electronics company affected by the tariffs.
They were paying about $10,000 a month in tariffs to import their goods in. And with all of the changes this year, that jumped to $200,000 a month.
That was a larger importer, Bell says. Smaller companies facing new tariffs might not be able to come up with that extra cash.
The money part really, really matters. Access to capital and companies being able to continue their regular business if they can absorb that much of it.
The reciprocal tariffs, which have been paused for close to 90 days, are scheduled to resume July 8th. If that happens, Bell says more companies may face the challenge of meeting new costs or may go out of business. Abigail Moody, Boise State Public Radio News.
The so-called Galloway Law goes into effect in Idaho this summer. Named for its sponsor, GOP State Senator Cody Galloway of Boise, the law bans sleeping on public sidewalks, in parks, and in cars. And when the measure was signed into law earlier this year, Boise Mayor Lauren McLean said the city would continue to work with its police department and community partners to try to address the bigger problem. But she also said the law was the law. Here she was on Morning Edition this past April.
The law goes into effect July 1st. We'll continue to look at long-term solutions. In this instance, with this Galloway bill, it has real impacts on the resources when we know that our residents are asking them to deploy officers in all of our neighborhoods to patrol our streets, et cetera. This really ties their hands in terms of how they do their jobs.
And today, the Boise City Council will be asked to pass an ordinance which will update the city's anti-camping code to be in line with the Galloway Law. People across Idaho are weighing in on a proposal that could see more than 21 million acres of public land in the Gem State sold. That is part of a provision in the budget reconciliation bill under consideration in the U.S. Senate. Henry D'Souza reports.
More than 21 million acres of public land in Idaho could be sold as a part of a provision in the budget reconciliation bill under consideration in the U.S. Senate. Henry D'Souza has more.
Last week, Idaho Senators Jim Risch and Mike Crapo both announced opposition to the land sale provision. Lan Tawney, co-chair of American Hunters and Anglers, says bipartisan support is not surprising.
They are essential to who we are as Westerners, but I think Americans in general. And so when you try to mess with our public lands, the people are going to speak out.
Utah Republican Senator Mike Lee proposed making 250 million acres of public lands across 11 western states eligible for housing development. Tawney doesn't buy it.
My guess is that they're not going to develop that for affordable housing, maybe a small portion, but it's going to develop condos for rich people to be there once a year.
An attempt to sell public lands in Utah and Nevada was removed from the House version of the so-called Big Beautiful Bill. Critics then, including Idaho Representative Mike Simpson, worried the sale would set a dangerous precedent for future land sales in the West. Henry D'Souza, Boise State Public Radio News.
The Trump administration's proposed budget could cut funding to the U.S. Geological Survey by nearly 40%, including grants to universities. And as Caleb Radel reports, that could affect funding relied on by survey offices in several states here in the Mountain West.
State geological surveys use federal funds to map where mineral deposits and energy sources are located. These maps are used by mining companies, fossil fuel producers, geothermal developers, and even home builders. Simon Jowett is Nevada's state geologist. He says the federal government's proposed budget would shrink their survey staff by about 1/3 and cut their total budget in half.
Essentially, there would be very limited to zero geological mapping by the Bureau in the state. We would lose the ability to further our understanding of mineral deposits and actually how to identify new areas for exploration.
The cuts could also limit state surveys in other Mountain West states rich in minerals and fossil fuels, like Colorado, Idaho, and Montana. Jowett says this funding uncertainty comes at a time when geologists should be ramping up their mapping to support the minerals industry and national security. For the Mountain West News Bureau, I'm Caleb Radel.
And that is today's episode of The Connector. I'm George Prentice. To stay in touch with the news, check out BoiseStatePublicRadio.org or download the free Boise State Public Radio app. And thanks for listening.
Planet Money helps you understand the economy. We find the people at the center of the story.
Garbage in New York, that was like a controlled substance.
We show you how money influences everything.
Tell me what you like by telling me how you spend your money.
And we dig until we get answers.
I had a bad feeling you're going to bring that up.
Planet Money finds out. All you have to do is listen. The Planet Money Podcast from NPR.